Okay, notice how large the dinky toy looks compared to the climber in the background. Now, the distance between me and the dinky toy is very small. I would say I'm about maybe a foot, 30 centimeters away from the dinky toy. I'm much, much farther away from the climber, so it looks smaller in the background because my distance to it is a lot larger. Now what I'm going to do is increase my distance to the dinky toy. I'm going to about double it. I'm going to try and get to approximately 60 centimeters. I don't have anything to measure with, so this is just a guess. But when I double my distance, the dinky toy should look about half the size in my field of view. That's just the way trigonometry works. So I'm going to about double my distance, which I think is about here. Now when I doubled my distance to the dinky toy, I only moved a tiny little bit away from the climber. I certainly didn't double the distance to the climber. So the climber, while it looks a little bit smaller, is really negligible. You probably wouldn't be able to tell it was much smaller if I actually took still shots and lined it up. It'll be a tiny bit smaller because I did move away from it, but I doubled the distance from the dinky toy and only increased the distance to the climber just a tiny bit. So when I zoom in now on the dinky toy, it's going to get larger because basically all I'm going to do is increase the size of this scene that we see here right now. Nothing is going to really change as far as their size compared to each other. I'm just going to zoom in so that all we see now is the dinky toy about the same size as it was in the first place. Now notice we see a whole lot less of the climber when I increase that zoom to the dinky toy. Now I'm going to try doing this one more time. I'm going to try to double my distance to the dinky toy again. It's going to get a little bit harder to estimate, but let's see. So now this time when I double my distance to the dinky toy, the distance I am away from the climber is not going to be quite as negligible. So it will decrease in size a little bit more than it did before, although you're not going to notice it near as much as you notice the dinky toy. So let's double the distance the best I can. I'm going to say right about there. And so I about doubled my distance again, which means since now I've doubled it twice, I'm 4 times as far away from the dinky toy as I was in the first place. And I'm not yet double the distance I was to the climber. So I'm going to once again zoom in on the dinky toy. Now, since the climber didn't decrease in size near as much as the dinky toy, when I zoom in it's going to look considerably larger. And so when I zoom in, and you can see the dinky toy, it's not focusing on the dinky toy, but I think that's about what it looked in my field of view when I started. And when I started, you could see pretty much the whole climber behind it. Now you can see only the rock wall portion of it. Now basically what's happening is the farther I get away, the closer that dinky toy is becoming to actually looking the size it would be, its real ratio of size to the climber. And in fact, if I double my distance again, it's going to look much, much closer to the correct size that it should look beside the climber if I went over and actually set the dinky toy beside the climber or beside one of those rock wall pieces. And if I did that, I think the rock wall pieces would be, I'm going to say, just a little bit bigger than the dinky toy itself. Okay, so I'm going to increase the distance again. I'm going to try and double the distance. I'm going to get considerably farther away. Now when I double it again, that means I'm now about 8 times further away. Oh, can't see it. There we go. I'm about 8 times further away than I was when we started from the dinky toy. And I think I'm now getting pretty close to double the distance of the climber. So if I zoomed right back out, the climber should probably look about half the size now as it did when I started this video. And again, this is just sort of ballpark half size and stuff because I have not measured exact distances. I'm just going on estimates here. Now I'm going to zoom in on the truck, the dinky toy, to try and make it look about the same size in my field of view as when we started. It's still blurry as it's focusing on the climber, not the toy truck. And you can see the climber looks considerably larger behind it. Certainly larger than it did when we first started this little experiment. And it is not the atmosphere that is magnifying the climber. Not even close. It has everything to do with geometry, everything to do with field of view, everything to do with, dare I say it, perspective.